Hello and welcome to Sophie & Co. Me, Sophie Shevardnadze. Now, a man of many titles, Jesse Ventura is a politician, actor, author, U.S. Navy veteran, and a former professional wrestler. And now he wants to be president. And he's our guest today.
Jesse Ventura does not associate himself with either side of the political establishment. He won the seat of 38th Governor of Minnesota as an independent candidate. He believes the same luck will push him to the top of American politics. As he decides to run for the presidency in 2016, what makes him believe he will win? Jesse Ventura, is he delusional or a fighter?
Hello, Jesse. Nice to have you on the show today. Now, you want to run for presidency in 2016. Realistically, do you think you can win?
Well, first of all, I didn't say that I was running, but I felt that the opportunity was there for a third candidate to be successful in light of the fact that the way that our two parties have operated in the last few years and the last decade, they've truly alienated the people to where, like, the approval rating of the Congress is at 10%. I mean, that's astounding. 9 out of 10 people dislike them and don't approve what they do. So I just stated that in the situation of a third candidate, you always wanted in a year where there's not an incumbent, and 2016 would provide that year. There'd be no incumbent, and that's where you'd have the most success at being successful. And I stated that if I did run, I would run under one premise, and I believe I could win on this alone in light of the way things are today in the United States. I would run and give the American people the opportunity to make history and to elect the first president since George Washington, who does not belong to a political party. Imagine that. We've had only one president who isn't attached to what I refer to the political gangs. And I believe the public sentiment today that a candidate could literally win on that alone, because people are so sick and tired of the way that these two parties have governed and the way that they've ran our government into the ground and what we stand for today.
So not belonging to either of the main parties or gangs, as you call them, is clearly a major handicap for people, because who will give you the money to finance your campaign, for instance? Would you be able to raise money if you weren't Republican or Democrat?
Well, that's the difficult thing, because they've created a system that's based completely on the concept of bribery. Now, if you do that in the private sector, you go to jail if you bribe someone. But the public sector, the entire system these two parties have created is the system of bribery. You pay off the politician and you get an audience with them. When I ran for governor of Minnesota, I only raised $300,000, where the Democrats and Republicans raised and spent $12 million at that time, and that was over a decade ago. They'd probably spend twice as much as that today. And I proved that you could win an election on ideas rather than money. In fact, one of the reasons I felt compelled to do that, and I'm probably the only candidate in 50 years who can make this statement, I actually made more money doing the job as governor than what I spent to get it. And I did that because when I was 16 years old growing up, I came home one day and my father said to me that all politicians are crooks. And I said to him, Dad, you can't make a statement like that. They can't all be crooks. You can't make a blanket statement. He goes, yes, I can. I said, why? He said, here's why. Because they spend $1 million for a job that only pays $100,000. Now, think of the simplicity. My dad only went to 8th grade, World War II veteran, but what he said was completely correct. In the private sector, you would never spend more money than what you're going to make doing the job. And I can honestly say, if my dad would have been alive, he could have looked down at his son and realized that his son wasn't a crook, because when I got elected in Minnesota, I made more money doing the job than what I spent to get it. Now, could I do that for president? Yes, I could, but I need someone like Howard Stern with me to do it.
But here's what I'm thinking, because, you know, being elected governor and president, it's it's different things because it's a whole new level. And you're such a great man, and you have, you know, popular support. But wouldn't it just make more sense and wouldn't it be more realistic to actually work for someone who is seen as a more realistic candidate, and through him you can push your ideas through?
No, I don't think so, because as long as these two parties are in charge, it's like the late, great Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead said once, if you're made to pick the lesser of two evils, it means you're still picking evil, doesn't it? So the problem we need to fight for is the abolishment of these political parties. We need to abolish them. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and John Adams all agree with me. They're pretty good supporters of that position, and they created this country, so who would know better than them? We need to abolish these political parties, make them political action committees, and the easy way to start that process could be done locally. Why do we put political parties' names on election ballots? Put just the name of the candidate. Don't put a party that they're affiliated with, just their name. That could be a huge step in the right direction, but you'll notice they will never allow that to happen.
Jesse, in a nutshell, what would your ideas for your presidential campaign be? The main ones.
Simple. My main one would be to give the American people the opportunity to elect a president since George Washington who does not belong to one of these political parties. Allow the people to pick their president. The people don't pick the president now. These two political parties pick your president. They decide who you're going to get to vote for. If I ran as a complete independent, the people of the United States could vote for me, and it wouldn't be decided by these two political gangs, because they're the ones that give you the two choices. So in essence, you have no choice.
Mm-hmm. But power lies not just with the government, but with big money. Those two parties are also heavily relying on big money. What are your solutions for that?
Well, my solution is that I have a means to do it without spending big money. Let me explain this. When I was governor of Minnesota for 4 years, I never met with a lobbyist once, because lobbyists didn't get me elected. The people did. I only took $25 and $50 donations from individuals. I didn't accept PAC money. I didn't accept special interest money whatsoever. But the point is, and let me get back to this, I'm not running for president. I never said that I was. I simply said 2016 would be the most opportune time to do it. I'm selling books now, I'm writing, I'm doing a lot of other things. I'm just simply commenting that it would be the time to do it would be 2016. I'm also stating that how I could do it and be different from what the status quo is, and I believe I could win.
But just to be clear, are you going to run or not? Or you haven't made up your mind yet?
I haven't made up my mind yet, no.
Okay.
I've merely, the media likes to talk about it, and the media likes to ask me about it, and I answer their questions. And I already explained, I need someone like Howard Stern, because I need his radio show to save money so I can campaign on his radio. It's not governed by the FCC, which when I ran for governor, they made me go unemployed for 6 months because they took me off the air. With Stern, I wouldn't have to come off the air. I could be on the air every day and get my message out. Plus, he has the ability to raise the money without selling my respect and my soul out to special interests. That is the point. I have to do it my way. I have to do it to keep my integrity if I'm going to do it. So it has to be done with unorthodox methods and not the status quo. When Jesse Ventura runs, if he does, it is not, you won't see a status quo made in the can campaign, because that isn't how you win. And I've already proved I've won twice. Mm-hmm. I know how to win.
Now, you have spoken to a lot of media, including the mainstream at this point. What are your feelings? Do you feel like everyone is open to what you have to say about running for president, you and Howard being running mates?
No, they take it as a joke, naturally, and they always try to marginalize you any way that they can, just like the current book tour that I've been on is a book about the Kennedy assassination, and I can't get on NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox News, or MSNBC, and I assume it's because of the content of the book. I'm not going along with the fact that Lee Harvey Oswald killed John Kennedy. I don't believe it. I think that when you study the Warren Commission, it's laughable to believe what they sold the American people. Give you an example, they totally disregarded the Warren Commission, the testimony of Governor John Connally and his wife Nellie, who are the governor and first lady of Texas. They ignored their testimony because both of them clearly stated they were not struck by any bullet that hit Kennedy, which defeats the magic bullet theory, which then sends the Warren Commission right into the toilet.
But so you do feel like the majority of the media is actually limited in its editorial choice?
Let me give it to you this way. I've written 7 New York Times best-selling books that have made the New York Times bestseller list. Not one of them has ever been reviewed by the New York Times. The very company that has the top 10 list, and I've made it with 7 books. They've never reviewed any of my books. Why is that?
Jesse, we're going to take a short break now. What will former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura do about the American debt and American wars in case he is president? Stay with us. Welcome back to the show. We're talking to Jesse Ventura, former governor of Minnesota and a possible future independent presidential candidate. So, Jesse, I'm going to read out your quote. Revolutions don't have to be violent. Again, that's what you've said. Which revolutions have inspired you that weren't violent, actually? Do you know a revolution that has actually worked?
Yeah, I think when the Philippines took back their country from Ferdinand Marcos, it took them about 20 years or 30 years to accomplish it. But I believe Marcos was taken out of power with no violence. There was a revolution in the Philippines that took that dictator out, because I was actually in the Philippines physically back in the early 70s when Marcos declared martial law and became the dictator of the Philippines. And 25 years later, they got him out of there. And to the best of my knowledge, there wasn't any bloodshed in the way that they did it. So the Philippine people can be very proud of what they accomplished. You can have revolutions without bloodshed, especially here in the United States of America.
Is this what you want? You want a revolution in America?
Yes, absolutely.
And
I do not want a government run by the Democrats and Republicans. What's that?
How do you see a revolution happening in America?
Of us destroying these two political parties, of marginalizing them, taking them out of the system. We should have elections that don't have political parties, where you run as an individual and you don't have to be part of a gang in which to serve your country. You don't have to join a gang to do it. And that's what we need a revolution on. Both Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and George Washington all warned us. They warned us, if you read what they wrote when they created the United States, they warned us that the downfall of the country, especially John Adams, said that it would be when political parties take over the government. Well, I think we're already there. You're seeing it right now at its best or worst, however you want to view it. They put their parties first. Look at all the decisions being made in Washington today. They're not being made for the benefit of the United States of America. They're being made for the benefit of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. It's the two parties. And then who are they beholding to? They're beholding to their money people, the corporations. So we are really the United Corporations of America today, not the United States of America. That's the revolution I'm calling for.
But what I'm thinking is that America is #1 consumerist country. Is any revolution possible in such a society? It seems people are only interested in being entertained and comfortable.
I don't know. We'll find out, won't we? I guess, you know, if people want to continue down the road we're going, if they think that the United States has got its best years ahead of it, it's the first time in my life right now that I've looked to the future and not been optimistic. It's the first time in my 60 years as a patriotic citizen of the United States that I look to the future and I don't see it as being better, I see it as being worse. And the only people I have to blame for that are the Democrats and Republicans, because they have been in charge for 150 years. Look at what they did when they raised the debt ceiling. Okay, they voted and raised the debt ceiling. What's the first thing they did? They gave billions of dollars of our money to Pakistan. So Pakistan gets the money and the United States pays the bill for it. I got news for you. If Jesse Ventura became president, foreign aid would end, because all foreign aid is an extension of their bribery. They give foreign countries, they bribe them with money so that they'll stand behind the positions that we want to push throughout the world.
Let's talk about foreign interventions for a minute. When you spoke to Larry King recently, you made a claim that the war in Syria started because President Assad was reluctant to let a pipeline go through the country. Where are you getting that from? That's the first time I hear something like that. I
heard it from an interview from an Arab who lived over there. I think it was on Al Jazeera or something like that, where I heard it talked about that they certainly want to put a pipeline through Syria, and that Assad's not being cooperative in doing so. And you know, let's look at the situations. You know, the United States today is governed by corporations. It's not governed, it's what corporations want to do out there, because our Supreme Court gave them the same rights as citizens, which I find astounding. How can a corporation have the same rights as me, and they don't even pay the same? If they're going to be the same as me, then let them pay the same tax rate that I pay. Why should corporations have a separate tax rate from citizens if they're granted the same by the Supreme Court? Then let's be the same. Follow me?
Yeah. So if you were elected president, would you cut down on defense spending just like on foreign aid?
Absolutely, I would cut down on it. The United States today spends more on defense than the other 26 countries in the world combined, and 25 of them are our allies. How many times can we blow up the world? Why is our military on bases in, 170 countries throughout the world? I would shut down those bases, and I would bring our young men and women home, and it would be the Department of Defense. It would not be the Department of War, which is what it is now. We would defend the United States. We would defend the United States to no end. But I would follow the teachings of Major General Smedley Darlington Butler, a two-time Congressional Medal of Honor winner, who said the United States military should never go over 500 miles from our coast. And I agree with that. We have the technology to go anywhere in the world now. We don't have to send our men and women throughout the world to be the policemen of it.
So, Jesse, you're not afraid that terrorists are going to attack America from any side possible?
Terrorists? Well, I think the bigger question to ask is, why are the terrorists attacking us? Can you answer that for me? Why is the United States under attack from terrorism? I'll ask you that question.
You tell me.
Answer
why?
It for me.
No, why? You tell me.
Well, the point is, that's the question that's... Well, that's the question that's not being asked, is it? Why do these people want to attack us? Isn't that what we should be finding out? My view is, let's get out of the Middle East completely. That's my view. Look at when Columbus came to I'm going to have fun with you now. When Columbus came to the United States and discovered it for the Anglo-Europeans, what was he doing? He was attempting to find another way to India to avoid going through the Middle East. Well, science at that time said he might fall off the face of the earth if he went that way. Columbus was willing to take that risk because he wanted to avoid the Middle East. Now, what does that tell you? That was 700 or 800 years ago. This guy was trying to avoid the Middle East. Why are we bothering with the Middle East? Let them do what they want to do. Why does the United States need to be involved over there? If we weren't involved over there, we wouldn't have any worry about terrorism, would we? You don't see Middle Eastern terrorists attacking Sweden, do you?
No. I see your point. It's a valid point. Although I don't know that the problem of terrorism will be completely taken care of once America leaves Middle East, because it's something much wider than just the Middle East problem. But on the same...
Terrorists are... Wait a minute. Terrorists are simply a bad groups of people located throughout the world, no different than, say, a motorcycle gang or what have you, that are involved in bad activities. You're not going to solve that problem by invading countries, overthrowing governments, and occupying countries. That's the solution. That's insane. You're going to win it with good police work and intelligence gathering. That's how you'll defeat terrorism. They are just simply little pockets of bad people throughout the world you have to deal with, and creating an empire and occupying nations with your military is not the answer.
Fair enough, Jesse. Fair enough. But on a different note, when you say that America just needs to get out of all those countries, stop invading other countries, and take care of its own business, I see it also from the other side, that U.S. is the richest country in the world, and it is the strongest country in the world, and with that comes a certain responsibility. And what happens to other countries who really need American help?
Well, first of all, we're broke. We can't help anybody. Take a look at our debt. Let's bring this down to basic terms. If you as a family are losing your house due to foreclosure, you're 3 car payments behind, and your Uncle Bob calls and wants $500, are you going to give it to him? No. We are broke. We are so far in debt. A baby born today in the United States, when it takes its first breath of air, is $50,000 in debt. In debt. Is that ringing home? We have no money to give anyone. How can you call us the richest country in the world when we're trillions and trillions of dollars in debt? How can you make a statement like that?
But what is your solution to get America out of debt? Because it is a catastrophic problem. How do you get it under control?
You're not answering my... Excuse me, you're not answering my question,
no.
are you?
I'm just playing devil's advocate here, because
How do we give out when we're so far in debt that every child born in America starts its life $50,000 in the hole? How are we supposed to give money to other countries?
No.
Explain
I'm not saying that America should give money to other countries. I'm just playing devil's advocate and telling you that, you know, some people would say America is the richest country in the world. They should help poor countries. That's all I'm saying, because I'm not the only one who would ask you that question if you became president, you know.
We're not. And what I'm saying is we're not the richest country in the world. Look how far in debt we are. How much money do we owe China right now?
Oh, no, fair enough. So I'm asking,
astronomical.
do you have a solution to your debt problem? Because it is a very bad problem. It's catastrophic right now. Do you have a solution?
Yeah, yes, I just told you 2 major solutions. Stop foreign aid and cut down defense spending. Da-da.
I want to talk a little bit about Snowden and Bradley Manning, because you've said that if you became president, the first 2 pardons that you will make will be Bradley Manning and Edward Snowden. Everyone whistleblowing on government wrongdoing is a hero, that's what you said. But would you feel different if it was your government being undermined?
No, because it's not my government being undermined, it's my government breaking the law. My government was breaking the law, and Mr. Snowden brought that to public attention. Now, my government should be punished for breaking the law, not Mr. Snowden. He's the one that showed the people that the government was violating their 4th Amendment rights, that the government was spying on them, and the government was lying to them when they were saying that they weren't doing it. How much more clear can you be on that? Whistleblowers who blow the whistle on government law breaking, and the government needs to uphold their own laws, and they need to live under the laws that they make us live under. After all, they are us. Here's the problem. We've lost sight of the fact that we're the boss. The government works for us. They've somehow, through osmosis, reversed that and made the people feel that somehow they lord over us and we work for them. And people like Snowden and Manning should not be in jail. They should be pardoned immediately for standing up for the people's rights against oppressive government and government wrongdoing.
Jesse, I really hope you make up your mind and run for the President of the United States. Thank you very much for this interview. That's all for today, folks. Our guest was Jesse Ventura, former Minnesota governor, here on Sophieco. Thanks for being with us, and I will see you next time.